You've been kidnapped by human traffickers and locked in a room with a sadistic murderer who wants to torture you in the sickest way possible. No one's coming to your rescue, and you'll have to outsmart everyone if you want to survive. When you're trapped underground and being brutally tortured, what do? I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat HOSTEL. These 3 tourists want to get laid, and it's going to get them all killed. They're having the time of their lives clubbing in Amsterdam and are looking for their next crazy experience. Josh here's having no luck with the ladies, and his fanny pack isn't helping him out. But when he builds up the courage to approach this girl across the room, he bumps into someone and spills her drink. Her boyfriend confronts him and it quickly escalates into a fight. The bouncer throws them out and they leave the club to go back to their hostel, but when they get there, it's after curfew and the doors are locked. Luckily, this guy invites them up and they climb the ladder into his room. The man Alex asks them where they're heading to next, and Paxton here tells them they're going to Spain to pick up women, but this guy has other plans for them. He lets them in on a secret, telling them that outside of Bratislava, there are hostels full of beautiful women who love Americans and just their accent alone can get them laid. They can't believe their ears and agree to make the trip, but they have no idea this one conversation will ruin their lives. Okay, they've completely rerouted their entire trip. Now, Bratislava is actually a safe and beautiful city to travel to, but it's in the complete opposite direction of Spain, which is where they were headed, and it's not even the best place in Europe to get lucky. Statistically speaking, Finland has the highest number of sexual encounters per capita in the world, at 4.4 sexual partners per year, and Denmark comes at a close 4th place with 4.3 sexual partners per year. Also, Denmark is 600 kilometers closer to them than Bratislava, so to me the choice is obvious. It's closer, the women are more free-loving, and they won't have to completely change their travel plans to do it. The next day, they take the train to Slovakia, and on their way, this businessman enters their compartment. He asks them where they're headed, and when he hears they're going to Bratislava, he tells them it's full of beautiful women and they can pay to do anything they want there. He seems like a nice guy, but when he starts eating his lunch with his hands, things start to get a little weird. The man explains that he wants to have a connection with things that die and believes it's human nature. Asking Josh here what his nature is, the man touches his leg and the kid freaks out. His friends find it hilarious, but they don't realize they've just met the most dangerous person on the train. Okay, getting hit on by a middle-aged man on a train is not the kind of adventure they're looking for, but it's also distracting them from a very important point. This guy said they can pay to do anything, and this statement is a lot sketchier than it sounds. Prostitution is already legal in many countries in Europe, including Amsterdam, so if everyone already knows this, then he isn't talking about the nightlife. What he's talking about is probably something super illegal, and instead of laughing, it should be freaking them out. Now, tourists are perhaps the easiest people to take advantage of because they don't know any better and are often looking for experiences they wouldn't normally have. And let's face it, the real reason these countries love Americans is because they think we're all rich. This makes them perfect targets for extortion, blackmail, or worse. I would be getting worried that we're walking into a city full of people who want to take advantage of us and be very cautious about how we approach the rest of our vacation. Getting off at the station, they aren't impressed by the view, but their opinions quickly change when they arrive at the hostel. The place is very fancy, and after checking in, they discover that they'll be sharing rooms with other guests, and it looks like they've hit the jackpot. After they're done dressing, the women invite them to the spa, and the guys are happy to join them. Natalia hears from Russia, while Svetlana hears from Prague, and they're all very eager to get to know each other. That night, they all go to a club together and the girls share their private stash of disco biscuits. But Josh here is feeling overwhelmed and leaves to get some fresh air. Outside the club, he almost gets mugged by a gang of children, but luckily, the creepy businessman from the train suddenly appears and gets them to run away. The two of them go back to the bar where Josh apologizes for earlier and notices a strange tattoo on the man's arm. But before he can say anything, he gets dragged away by Natalia and they all return to the hostel for a crazy night that Josh here will never remember. Okay, I know a honey trap when I see one. This guy's made it pretty clear he'd rather talk to a man who touched his leg on a train one time rather than flirt with this beautiful woman, but for some reason, she's still interested. When a woman like this is persistently chasing you, experience says it's a clear sign something is wrong. But that's not the only oversight they've made, because taking drugs from strangers in a foreign country never ends well. This situation could easily end with you being force-fed Rohypnol and waking up robbed of all your earthly possessions. Also, Slovakia has a corruption problem, and even though they have harsh penalties for drug crimes, the enforcement of these laws are relatively low. The next morning, they wake up with smiles on their faces, but see that their friend Ollie is missing. Paxton here thinks he might be having breakfast, but they're surprised to discover that he's already checked out. They say goodbye to the roommates when this Japanese guest runs up to them and shows them a strange photo of their friend Ollie with her friend that says goodbye in Japanese. They know this doesn't add up because Ollie isn't into Asian girls, and Paxton here asks her to send him the photo. This is not okay. These guys haven't caught on yet, but this photo looks like it might be doctored. Not only do these two look extremely unhappy for a couple who fell in love and ditched their friends, but whoever made this photo was overlooking a key aspect of photography that sticks out like a sore thumb. In this picture, the foreground and the background are both in focus, and this wouldn't normally happen. The depth of field of a lens is set by its aperture, but even at an f-stop of 22, it would be next to impossible to get this kind of focal depth with them standing this close to the camera. I would take this photo to the police so they can start looking for them, because kidnappings after the first 72 hours are rarely solved and the clock is already ticking. Paxton and Josh decide to walk around the town looking for their friend, when they suddenly spot Ollie walking by and try to get his attention. They chase him into this building, but when they reach him, they realize it's a complete stranger. Paxton demands to know where he got his jacket, but the man claims it belongs to him and leaves. Okay, you might say that having the same colored jacket is not enough to accuse a man of kidnapping your friend, and you'd be right. But there's one detail here that can wipe this man's shit-eating grin right off his face. Because not only is his jacket the same color, but it also has a patch of an Icelandic flag. Their friend Ollie is from Iceland, and on the day he goes missing, they find someone with the same jacket that has his country's flag on it, and this guy wants me to believe he bought it in a store in Slovakia. He must have been involved in the kidnapping somehow, and we can't let him get away. I would call the police and continue following him until they show up to question him. Now, the jacket alone might not be enough evidence for them, but we have a very unique advantage in solving this case, because according to Interpol, DNA databases now exist in all 27 of the European Union member states. Although Iceland is not officially a member, it hosts one of the leaders in the field of genetics called Decode, which has collected so much DNA data on its citizens that they have a sample for nearly half of the entire Icelandic population. They could collect DNA samples from the jacket and match them to Decode's database, giving them a very good chance to prove it's Ollie's and lock this guy up for further questioning. They walk back to the hostel when Paxton here receives a message from Ollie. It's a selfie of the man's head with the caption, "I go home," but they don't realize that their friend is already dead. Somewhere underground, Ollie's murderer has taken a picture of the man's severed head and he's just getting started. The killer walks down the hall and into another room where a Japanese woman is held prisoner. She screams for help, but no one can hear her as he begins to cut off her toes. That night, they try to forget about Ollie and enjoy the rest of their trip with the girls, but Josh here is feeling sick and wants to leave. Natalia offers to go back with him, but he turns her down and heads back to the hostel. When he arrives, he gets taken back to his room and passes out, but someone else steps into the doorway, and Josh here has no idea he's about to become the next kidnapped victim. Back at the club, Paxton here begins to feel sick and gets up to find a restroom, but as he leaves, a man is watching him from across the room, and the women seem to know more than they're letting on. In his drugged up state, he enters a storage room and gets locked in with no one able to hear him calling for help. Trapped inside, he passes out and spends the whole night with no idea that he's narrowly escaped the same fate as his friends. Meanwhile, Josh here wakes up in a room with no idea how he got there. He's been shackled to a chair with his hands cuffed and can only watch in horror as a man in a butcher's uniform picks up a power drill. He begins to torture him with no mercy as he drills several holes into Josh's body. His screams ring out into the halls, but then it goes quiet. As the man puts away the drill, he reveals himself to be the businessman from the train. Josh here begs to be let go, and the man agrees to free him, but he has one last surprise. Reaching back, he slashes his Achilles tendons, and Josh screams in pain. Freeing him from the chair, the man opens the door, allowing him to leave, but when Josh tries to stand up, he collapses as his wounds stretch open. He offers some money to stop the torture, but the man reveals that he's paid for the pleasure of killing him and slits his throat. Okay, this is what you get when you leave your girlfriend at a bar. These look like a pair of standard police-issued handcuffs, so they're fairly restrictive and the metal is going to be strong, but that just so happens to put us at an advantage. Special forces units, such as the Green Berets, are trained to escape from any restraint, and they do this through a simple technique. They bring their wrists together and rotate them so that the chains begin to tangle, building up more tension as the chains are pulled taut. This weakens the restraints so much that a soldier can break them with a quick twisting motion and make their escape. This is going to take some patience and it's going to be extremely painful, but a little pain is worth it if it saves your life. If he manages to break free, he's got the further advantage of being younger than his torturer. The only thing that gives this man power is that he has a weapon. Otherwise, he's middle-aged and out of shape. Instead of running for the door without tendons, I would wait for the man to come close enough to knock him over. If I can get him on the ground with me, then I can use my upper body strength to fight him without needing to use my legs. And this gives us a real shot at escaping with our lives. Meanwhile, Paxton here returns back to the hostel and finds out that according to the guest logs, he's already been checked out. He chews out the receptionist for this mistake and gets a new room, but when he enters, he sees two women getting dressed and they invite him to the spa. He realizes it's word for word the same thing that Natalia and Svetlana told him when he first came here. Looking for clues, he uses the picture of Ollie to find the smokestack from the photo is an exact match for the one nearby. But suddenly, a gang of kids steal his phone and run away. He chases them down and catches one, but realizing he's just a kid, lets him go. With no phone and no evidence, he goes to the police station and files a missing persons report, but the officer reassures him it's not uncommon for people to leave without notice. No one is going to help him, and he decides to take matters into his own hands. Okay, you know it's a lost cause when even the police won't help you, and this guy doesn't have a chance to find or rescue his friend on his own. But that's exactly why I would try to enlist this gang of kids to help me investigate. They don't have any motive other than self-profit, so I could buy their services with a steady flow of money and candy to be my eyes and ears throughout the city, helping me follow the movements of everyone I suspect. I would have them track both Natalia and Svetlana, as well as the man in Ollie's jacket and the first receptionist from the hostel. Because if this is a repeated con job, then the hostel staff must know about it and are probably getting paid for it. These kids already have his phone, so they can go anywhere without suspicion and take photos of the suspects, and it would let us gather enough intel to convince the police to help. Leaving the police station, he sees Natalia from the night before and follows her into a building, but the locals are keeping a close eye on him. Entering the bar, he finds Natalia and Svetlana here sitting at a table. Confronting them about his missing friend, they tell him he's with Ollie at an art exhibit. He doesn't believe them and demands to be taken there to find out what's going on. On their way, the woman offers him chewing gum, but as she searches her purse, he notices it's full of money. The driver gives her a huge bag of gum, and Paxton here thinks it's really strange they would carry so much of it. When they finally arrive, he notices the smokestack from this factory is the same one featured in the photo of Ollie and realizes he's found the right place. Okay, when a beautiful woman takes you to an abandoned factory in the middle of nowhere, you've probably made some bad choices. Honestly, without police involvement or a cell phone, I wouldn't even get in the car. At this point, I think the best course of action is to protect yourself and leave the city. I guarantee you, friends that you can find are a lot better company than friends who are missing, and some relationships aren't meant to last. I would have already done all that I could to help them, and that includes acquiring more evidence to take to the police. Giving up on your kidnapped friends might seem cold-blooded, but that's because it totally is, and I just really don't want to die. Dropped off in the parking lot, he enters the factory and is surprised when he's told that entry is free. He's skeptical that this is an art exhibit, but with no other ways to find his friends, he walks deeper into the complex and is horrified to find the businessman from the train operating on his dead friend. He can't believe what he's seeing, and Natalia here reveals that she got paid a lot of money to bring him here. Suddenly, he gets grabbed and is dragged into a room where he's handcuffed and restrained to a chair, becoming yet another tourist kidnapped from the hostel, and there's no one coming to save him. Okay, this is scary as hell, and we're not going to overpower these guys. This whole situation has been designed to lure us here, and we've already been sold to the highest bidder. But that's exactly why we may have one last chance to survive. This is clearly a business, and like in every business, money talks the loudest. As a last-ditch effort, I'd be offering them more money to become a customer and to help them lure more Americans here to increase their stock. At the end of the day, every profitable business wants to grow and increase demand. And if I offer to help them meet this growing demand, it's worth more to them than serving a single customer. It's unlikely to work, but if we're not trying everything we can think of to escape, then we deserve to die here. When the door opens, a guard comes in demanding him to speak. This customer wants to make sure he's killing an American. The guard then stuffs a gag in his mouth and leaves. Putting a pistol to his head, the customer is about to shoot him but realizes it's too easy and changes his mind at the last minute. That's when Paxton hears the sound of a chainsaw motor. The man approaches and brings a blade down to his chest, but Paxton begins to vomit, causing him to choke. The man doesn't want him to die before he can get his money's worth, so he unlocks the gag and lets him hurl. But this man has no idea that one act of kindness will kill him. He picks up his chainsaw again and slices some of Paxton's fingers off, not knowing he's also cut through the handcuffs. Turning around, he sees the man running at him with the chainsaw, but the guy slips on the ball gag. The torturer falls to the ground, and the saw lands on his leg, cutting right through the bone. Paxton manages to tip the chair over and reach the gun just in time to kill the man. Outside the room, the guard hears someone calling in German and goes to check it out. But when he enters, Paxton turns around and shoots him dead. Okay, this guy got extremely lucky, and he was smart about his escape plan too. If the room is quiet for too long, the guard will notice, so the only way out is to call him in and kill him before he suspects something. But he also made it harder on himself than necessary. If your back is turned, it's not easy to swing around and shoot on target while locked to a chair. We also have to consider there may be only a couple bullets left in the gun, and we won't get a second chance at killing him. Personally, I would have slanted my chair sideways before calling out to the guard. I don't think he would have found it suspicious because the chair could have moved during the torture, and we could still lure him in to get a better shot. Freeing himself from his shackles, he takes his cut off fingers and puts on a disguise to sneak his way out. He's about to escape when the lights turn on and he hides in a nearby room, narrowly avoiding the guards. Inside, he finds a bunch of dead bodies stacked on a pushcart and panics when the light turns on. A man wheels the corpses out and pulls it through the halls with no idea that Paxton here is hitching a ride. He's taken to the bottom floor and wheeled into a kitchen where the man begins hacking apart the severed limbs. And when Paxton opens his eyes, he sees his dead friend staring back at him. If he makes one mistake, he'll end up just like Josh. The butcher here takes a corpse off of the trolley and knocks Paxton's fingers to the floor. He tries to grab them, but the butcher beats him to it. Picking them up, the man leaves the kitchen to dispose of the corpses and gives Paxton his opportunity to escape as he sneaks up behind the man and knocks him out. Okay, patience is a virtue, and the guy made the right decisions here. It makes sense to want to grab a weapon and fight your way out as quickly as you can, but it doesn't grant you the best opportunities. The man hasn't noticed you, and if you get up, the body stacked on top of you will drop to the floor and make a noise, alerting him to your presence. It's a lot easier for him to turn around and swing a knife than it is for you to push a body off your chest and stand up to grab a weapon. Patience is the only play that works here, and he made the right decision. Although, this guy has got to let go of his fingers. For serious injuries like this one, reattachment is no longer possible after 6 hours. And that seems like a pretty optimistic time frame for escaping with your life, making it back to town, finding a hospital, and having a doctor sew both fingers back on. It's great that he's still thinking about his quality of life in all of this, but for me, I'd rather focus on my immediate survival and keep my hands free in case I need to grab a weapon or defend myself. Paxton takes the elevator to the top floor and manages to evade the patrolling guards in the hall before entering this locker room. He sees a window across the room, but when he peeks through it, he sees a police officer talking to one of the drivers and realizes that the cops know all about this place and are allowing it to happen. There's no chance of getting help now. He changes into a clean set of clothes and finds a card in the pocket belonging to the elite hunting club, with prices for the different nationalities brought in. But as he looks at the card in horror, another American tourist enters the room and takes him by surprise. He asks what it felt like and if he should kill his victim quickly or not. Paxton here says to make it quick, but the man disagrees, deciding he'll do it slowly, leaving his pistol behind for Paxton to take. He makes his way out of the building and finds a car with the key still in the ignition, but suddenly he hears the Japanese girl screaming in pain and refuses to leave her behind. Running back inside, he follows the screams until he finds the man from upstairs torturing her and shoots him with his own pistol. Together, they run out of the building and manage to steal one of the cars, but it alerts the guards who chase after them. Heading into town, the road gets blocked by a van, but once it moves out of the way, he sees the woman from the hostel and Alex from Amsterdam standing in the street. They turn, seeing he's in the car, and with no remorse, he brutally runs them down in the road. Okay, 3 for the price of 1 is a good deal anywhere in the world, and I would definitely run them over too, except it's going to involve the police. Being chased by both gangsters and the police is the kind of irony I would try to avoid, especially when I'm running for my life. The truth is, this guy shouldn't even be on this street, because driving your car through the city is a surefire way of getting caught. There are too many pedestrians in the way, and when the streets are this narrow, you'll have to slow down, which lets the gangsters catch up. The better thing to do is drive down a narrow street and ditch the car. When the gangsters arrive, they'll be blocked, and it forces them to make a detour to find you again. You're slower on foot, but using the car to block the way buys you time to hide, and they will lose your trail, giving you a better chance to escape. On another street, the man gets stopped by the gang of kids who want a treat, and luckily, he still has a giant bag of gum in the car to bribe them with. When the guards from the exhibit show up trying to follow him, the kids don't go easy on them, and it gives us a pretty clear picture of what Oliver Twist would be like if it was set in Eastern Europe. Ditching the car, they hurry on foot to the train station, but he sees the guards from the exhibit talking with the police. They move towards these boxes to hide, but as they approach them, the Japanese woman sees her reflection in the glass. She's so disturbed by her wounds that she walks out onto the platform, and when she spots the oncoming train, jumps in front of it. Her death distracts everyone at the station, and Paxton is able to sneak onto the other train and escape the town. Later, as he's resting, he hears the voice of the businessman and realizes he's also on the train. When the man gets off his stop, he greets his daughter and walks to the station, but has no idea that they're being followed. They stop at the restrooms and he sends his daughter in before he enters the men's side alone. That's when Paxton decides to take revenge. The man finishes washing up and waits for his daughter to come out of the restroom, but when she takes too long, he realizes she's gone missing. In a panic, he runs to the station calling her name, but never notices that Paxton is right behind him, holding his daughter hostage as the train leaves the station.
But what do you think? How would you beat Hostel? Let me know with a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, leave a like and subscribe, and check out the How to Beat playlist for more videos like this. Until next time, have a damn good day.